so as of right now, right this second, I have a new Twitter name. My new Twitter name is @LoveYouMe1, so it's @LUVUME1. And the reason why is because I've had a brand divorce. So my best advice, if your brand, whether you created it or you work there, is if it doesn't represent your values, leave. That's what I did. So interestingly, there's a crossover between one of Jeff's defining moments and mine. And if my moment can manifest even a tiny fraction of what Jeff has been able to do, I'd be really psyched about it. So let's hope for a great future. So all of you are really here today at it's really my Twitter coming out party, because my brand now exposes me at the deepest level for who I am. This Love You Me is really about who I am. I'm actually a fairly introverted person. I'm pretty shy, so I don't usually come out with like who I am to people. I'm just not that way. Networking at things like these is a bit of a challenge for me. So for some people, they might be like, what? Well, you know, for me, this is really big, because I feel like I'm like ripping it all out and going, here I am. So now you know what can utterly disappoint me and what can really make me feel like I'm achieving my potential. So in the state of now, of course, it starts with a text message. And my text message is Love You Me. And I tried to take everything down to that point. So 140 characters, that's a lot. I said, no, I'm going to make it a really quick text message. And what this means to me is that everything I do, everything I create, manifest, buy, sell, interact, connect around, it has to be about loving you and loving me at the same time. So what this means is that what I'm doing is going to show that I love myself, and it's going to say that I love you as well. Now, you think about this in New York City when you're driving. This is not something easy to achieve, right? How am I going to do that when the guy's trying to cut me off? It's definitely not a simple thing. A lot of times I succeed at this, but many times I fail, and I feel bad about it, but there it is. That's all about life. So every one of you here, everyone streaming out there, all of you know, and this is really, really a big deal for me, and I hope you can appreciate that I've ripped it all off for you. There's really an immense power in vulnerability, and we heard about it a lot today. And this is something that I believe that's really important for every brand to comprehend. So as I go through these 7 steps of not only how to survive, but how to thrive in brand divorce, please keep the power of vulnerability forefront in your mind, because it's really, really important. Because brand building is really a very emotional process. And the more emotion your brand manifests, the more human it is, the more it's going to live in the limited availability of the mind share of every person that it touches, anyone that sees it. And this is just absolutely critical. So the individual, the team leader, the key person, the executive, whatever that person is that really carries that around, if that's going to end, it's going to be hard to do that kind of divorce. So this entity, if you will, whatever it is, person, team, has put the stamp of humanity on your brand, or the lack thereof. So what that means is that, okay, so let's remember that Nobel Prize winning proof of concept of humanity. I don't know if any of you remember this, that proved that we process everything emotionally. We like to think that we're rational, but we really aren't. We actually process everything emotionally first, and then we try to wrap our rationality around it. That's really who we are. That's really, and it's been proven, and the guy got the Nobel Prize for it. So that's really what we have to comprehend throughout this whole process. So we make these decisions emotionally. So it's like this person that carries your brand is really your amygdala of your brand. So if you think about that, that's a pretty big deal. So if they've been flat, and maybe that's the reason why you want them to go out the door, you still have some kind of a presence. It's just more of a wallflower brand, and it's kind of irrelevant to friendships. It's just kind of not there. If they've been out, way too out there for you, and that's why you're going to be, ending the relationship, your brand has an identity, but it's not something that you can be a friend with. So either way, there it is. So really, whether they're leaving of their own initiative or yours, so whether you want them to leave or whether they want to leave or whether you're the person leaving, it really doesn't matter, because what it means is that there's a misalignment of values and emotional worth, and that's where the separation comes in. So whether you see it first or they do, it's just the reality, and you really got to handle it both the same way. It doesn't matter which side you're coming from. So I got to really make a clear distinction at this point about what I'm talking about in terms of marketing, because I'm not talking about traditional marketing. I like to say, and people kind of look at me like, what? I like to say that marketing is dead, try farming instead. Of course, that sounds kind of strange. And that's because I think that brand building today, in the state of now, is really more like a family farm than what we think of as marketing. It's really akin to like planting seeds and harvesting and fostering a marriage, which we all know is challenging, because you have to enable the brand to grow, to thrive, and to become, versus push marketing, which really just sucks up a lot of bandwidth, takes up a lot of visual space, and really just uses a lot of printer ink, right? Any of you feel that about what push marketing is when it comes at you in your mail or when you're on the internet and it's like, you know, it's like, get out of my visual space. So the first step in this process, and this is the most critical one, so if you fall asleep right now, if you need to leave, or if you just, you know, have to go to wherever, just please remember this, and it's really about P&L. So many times when people think of P&L, they think of profit and loss. Well, it can lead to profit and loss if you don't do this, but that's not what it is. It's more like the P's and Q's that we were taught when we were kids, except it's P's and L's, and that is get in the mind frame of positive empathy, agreements, listen. And this is just, if you do this and you do nothing else, you're going to come out the other end and you're going to be okay. So we have to really frame this emotional component. People have filters between positive and negative choices. It's called loss aversion. It's part of the, like an innate flaw, if you will, in humanity. We all have it. It's part of who we are. It's part of a larger psychological phenomenon that's called negativity bias, and once again, we all have it. So what it means is that for the human mind, bad is stronger than good. And I think we all know that when we think about how some advertising works, and if they come at you negatively, you know, we tend to remember it. So in this process, always give a positive choice and always frame things in a positive way. That's really, really important because we're biologically hardwired that way as humans. So step 2, so remember, we're in this positive frame of mind, right? We're going to give positive choices, is to go back and check out the prenuptial that you did with the person that you brought in to do this. So all of you have that, right? You all have agreements and with everybody? Okay, great. You guys all have it. I've been surprised at some big companies that don't have anything like that. You know, they're bringing people in to do social media, and if they leave, it's all gone. It's like it's lost. So at Sarah Nadav, who I worked with, and I hired her to work with me on something, this is her passion. She really wanted to be here to talk to you guys and to share this with you, but she's doing a startup right now to save the American economy. So follow her on Twitter because, believe me, I believe she's going to do it. And she's doing some really interesting stuff there. Anyway, so the prenup. It's got to be very basic, but it's very important. It's really a living document that's added to as this marriage progresses and as this farm builds. You know, okay, so we saw some people earlier that had a layout of all their social media activities. List of all your social media accounts, of course the passwords, events that you have that are right in the middle of, you know, this thing happening, a going your separate ways clause. And what this is acknowledging it's challenging to find a perfect fit for a brand. You have to create an emotional connection with the community, and that's not always easy. It can be a very soft process. There's not always clear criteria, and sometimes you just know it's not a fit, but you can't always give the criteria. My recommendation is to do, you know, a trial period with anyone for like 8 months. It really takes 6 months for somebody to come up to speed in a culture. And then 8 months is really enough time for you to kind of both look at each other and go, this is working or it isn't, that kind of thing. Make it a positive transition process. That's, you know, got to be, if you make that in part of the agreement that we're going to make this positive for both of us, it's going to help. Okay, I got a couple more minutes. So the third step is triage, and triage is really about the tipping point between death and healing. So with the triage, you have to make sure that once again you come in with the P's and the L's and let them know unequivocally you want to make this as positive as possible. Get some simple agreements just to get through the next few days. The fourth one is to introspect, and this is where you do the P's and L's on yourself. So what this is you have to really think about why this happened. There's a reason. You hired the person, you know, for whatever reason it didn't work out, whether they left or you left. Really try to think about what really happened, acknowledge the mistakes, don't circle the wagons. And this is a time when you really want to be empathic with yourself. You acknowledge the mistakes, but you really want to be empathic with yourself, make little agreements with yourself about how to get through it. The fifth one is where you kind of get excited again. It's developing a joint approach and plan and a strategy. You know, hopefully, and of course you have to be delicate with this, is to really try to work with that person to have a win-win for both. Maybe you can help them envision what their best job would be going forward. If they're leaving of their own volition, really try to get their input on what you can do better, because they'll respect you for it and they'll like it. The next one is to have a party. So the very minimum of this is do a breaking of bread. There's a psychological thing that happens when you eat with somebody, and it shifts the mind in a way that's really going to be positive for you and for that person going forward. And if you can really have a big party, great. If it's appropriate, if it makes sense, you'll be happy about it in the future. I can tell you that when I was in outsourcing for a long time, so I had to fire a lot of people, and I can't tell you how many times people would call me years later and say, "Thank you, you did the best thing for me," and I was like, "What?" And it was really because the process was handled that way. The last step is the most important thing I can say, and this is, if you live your values, if you work where your values are supported, it doesn't matter if you're in the 1% or if you're in the 99%, you're going to live a 99% better life. And that's the biggest message I think that I have, that I've learned out of the whole thing. So this Love You Me, I've created something, and Jeff is going to be the first one to get it. It's a prototype product. And I was going to call it Chocolate Kiss, but because of Jeff, I'm calling it Chocolate Hug. And I'm also going to give any of you tweepies out there who, you Twitter me at @loveyoume.com, so you want to get my organic sugar scrub, and I'm going to send it to you. I'm going to give it to you for free. I'm going to ship it to you for free. So please tweet me, and Jeff, I'll give you the chocolate hug back. Thanks.